So back in January, Tango Gameworks thought it'd be really funny to just put out Game of the Year with no prior marketing buildup or anything. To say it was a shadow drop is underselling it. They have dropped a Dreamcast-shaped atomic bomb on the entire video game industry. My little worry shack was caught directly in the blast, and my doctor has labeled my condition as radically terminal. This is Hi-Fi Rush. Before I begin, just a heads up that I'll be spoiling a good deal of what this game has to offer. If you haven't experienced it yet, well, stop the video right now and buy it. It's like if Fooly Cooley had a GameCube game made by Capcom. If I'm saying it's Game of the Year, in the year, with a Breath of the Wild sequel, a Resident Evil 4 remake, and a spiritual successor to Wario Land 4, then it's probably worth checking out. In Hi-Fi Rush, you take the role of Hi-Fi Chai Guy. He's got a messed up arm and big old dreams of being a big old rock star. He's traveled to the island campus of this big tech company, Vandalay Technologies, run by Mr. Sonic the Hedgehog, since they're doing a volunteer program called Project Armstrong to test out their new cybernetic limbs. But, these guys don't seem very nice to say the least. And in a horrific freak accident, Chai accidentally swallows his iPod and now sees the whole world move to the rhythm of his new metal playlist. Because he's a white boy that listens to music other than video game soundtracks and anime openings, he is quickly labeled a disgusting anomaly that defies the very laws of nature and must be exploded immediately. Chai decides it's probably best to skedaddle on out of there and meets up with this little robot meow meow man named 808 and her creator, Scene Girl Sally. She promises to help Chai get off the island if he first helps her find some dirt on Vandalay Technologies. She's got suspicions that a big tech company that looks like they're doing something nice for the public is probably covering up some really fucked up invasive shit, which of course is always correct, and finds out they're developing Spectra, an AI program that could let them basically mind control anybody with an Armstrong implant. Peppermint thinks this is nothing but bad news and wants to put a stop to it, and Chai is inclined to join her cause, since, you know, and because he is responsible for getting them both on Vandalay's radar. The main goal is to grab the UB keys from the department heads of Vandalay, since they're all needed to access the kill code for Spectra and stop it from activating, saving the day. And that's pretty much what happens. There's some twists and turns along the way, but overall the story doesn't do anything crazy. But it works. It's a Saturday morning cartoon kind of story, and Hi-Fi Rush feels like it's trying to emulate a Saturday morning cartoon. I'd say this sentiment holds true for the overall direction of the writing. A lot of goofy snarkiness to it all, with a dab of meta and reference humor to boot. I know the internet has grown a bit fatigued of this writing style, fuck I know I have, but I really liked it here. Plus I think it's way more sensible to have these self-aware one-liners come from the comic book cracker in cartoon land versus, yeah. It's a ton of dumb fun and it can be genuinely really damn funny. For the characters, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Tango Gameworks. Chai is the quirky white boy protagonist in an industry nowadays where they're struggling to find work. He's a naive, impulsive dumbass, but that endearing sort of naive, impulsive dumbass. Okay, he starts off kind of an arrogant dick, but he's so contagiously upbeat and confident that it's hard not to root for him. Plus, he has some nice character growth where he slowly gets his head at least partway out of his ass and becomes more appreciative of his teammates. The rest of the main gang are likable too. Peppermint is a meanie with a stick up her butt, but that cute kind of meanie with a stick up her butt. A good straight man to Chai's tendency to fuck things up every step of the way. Next up is Macaron, Peppermint's man on the inside, secretly rebelling against Vandalay Technologies. He's got understandable motivations and is a good-ass dude, could probably have a cup of coffee with him, but otherwise as a character he's just kinda there for me. Which is ironic since his robot companion, Cinnamon, is joked about in-game as being the one kinda just there. But dude, I love my man Cinnamon. He's unknowingly, unintentionally, positively, brutally honest with everything he says, and has some really great lines throughout the game. And last but not least, Corsica. She's great. Is it even a spoiler at this point to say that she doesn't stay a villain and joins the main gang? Fuck, the marketing isn't trying to keep it a secret anymore. The villains are all great though. They're charismatic as hell and eat up the screen whenever they're on it. The main honcho, Kale Vandalay, makes for a great big bad as the uptight, obnoxious rich asshole that you just want to punch right in his stupid fucking face. But what really elevates these guys and all the characters in general is some top-notch voice work. Again, very cartoons. A standout for me being Todd Haberkorn's deliciously ham-tastic portrayal of the head of R&D, Zonzo.
All staff are on this, but the cost, are you sure? Am I sure? I know what I want, and I don't want to hear about costs. Just turn it on!
There's even a fair share of fun dialogue to be had with the worker bot NPCs. I'm a big fan of the Oscar units, which you run into a couple times in the levels. They really nail that cynical, middle-aged coworker guy you were kind of friends with at your summer job. And to finally address the Takamoom in the room that is the presentation, because god fucking damn, how can I not? Hi-Fi Rush's vibrant cel-shaded art style is an absolute looker and sticks out like a neon green thumb. What really makes the art direction special is the devs put their full cock and balls into it. There's all these comic book style visual flares and onomatopoeia throughout it. The debriefings before missions are done through these cute little comic strips. Love these eye catchers during the boss fights, and as I've shown before, there's even some nice 2D animated stuff in here. But I need to shout out these ridiculously polished character animations. There's so much expression and life to how the fellas move around here. I don't think I've ever had this much fun just watching cutscenes. I love how depending on who's talking through 808, you'll also start matching their physical mannerisms. Lots of nice little details like that. The amount of care and effort put into Hi-Fi Rush's visuals makes for some truly jaw-dropping eye candy. And I'm not gonna say some fucking gay shit like it's genuine passion from the art team. Nuh-uh. I swear sometimes those artist motherfuckers are just goddamn flexing on us, and honestly, isn't that even better? The devs have gone on record saying the Dreamcast and GameCube era were huge inspirations. And yeah, you can definitely see stuff like Jet Set Radio running in this game's blood. I wouldn't be surprised if they were taking notes on what Arc Systems has been doing too. And stuff like how they do the character portraits and dialogue boxes made me think of a Persona 5. And to proudly display my Canadian heritage for a moment, how Hi-Fi Rush overall presents itself gave me big time YTV vibes. Like I could totally see this as a show I'd watch as a bastard kid, alongside reboot reruns and Stormhawks. Anyone remember Stormhawks? Anyways, Hi-Fi Rush is a rhythm action game. Pretty much everything is tied to the beat, from how you attack and move around with Chai, to how enemies move around and attack you. To how stuff in the environment moves around. Hell, even the cutscenes are grooving out. The main campaign is divided into linear missions, and what you'll be doing in missions is a mix of jumping around on shit or having to clear out an arena of baddies before you can progress, with some fun set pieces thrown in and usually ending off with some kind of big final encounter. And in between missions, you'll get access to your hideout. There's a couple things you can do here. There's stuff like a challenge board here in the form of this fun Sakurai-style mural, access to a combat training room, which I do recommend you spend even a little time in to get used to the controls, and a shop I'll get into a bit more later. You can also take the downtime to chat it up with the rest of your gang about the current situation. Honestly, more games need these little hub areas where you can just hang out with the other characters. For the jumping on shit sections, the raw platforming is very basic stuff, but honestly better for it, because Chai's controls are definitely designed for the combat. Like, that is not a Mario jump, that's a fucking Dante jump. They serve their function as breathing room between the more intense segments, with a chance for some dialogue to play out. They never feel intrusive, and each level always brings its fair share of gimmicks, quirks, and raw visual stimuli that I'm kept happy. You're also encouraged to explore around these areas too, finding goodies like upgrades to Chai's health or more materialistic stuff like these quirky little text logs or graffiti you can put up in your hideout. Or this. But the combat encounters are definitely the real meat and potatoes of Hi-Fi Rush. You'll be comboing the ever-living shit out of goons with light and heavy attacks, while bobbing and weaving around their attacks, all to the beat. You'd think the rhythm stuff would be either downplayed or super gimmicky, but it's really well done here. There's a real sense of rhythm to how you control Chai in fights. It gives an incredibly unique flow and punch to the combat, and you're encouraged to stay on the beat too, since it'll give you benefits like extra damage on your attacks. Or you can just hop on the baby difficulty and mindlessly mash through everything, as the game's animation system rather impressively tries to salvage your rhythmless ass. The music you'll be doing all of this to is great. Which, I mean, it better be, it's a rhythm game for fuck's sake. There's a whole lot of punk rock and nu metal to this soundtrack that helps to drive home that rebellious vibe the game radiates. They've even got a decent amount of licensed music here. And if you think it isn't ass-rippingly hyped to smash up a giant robot while 1 Million by 9 Inch Nails blasts in your eardrums,
Go get him!
then you need to get the fuck out of here. But if you're just a content creator that doesn't want to get their window smashed in by record companies, there is a streamer mode that replaces the licensed stuff with original compositions. These are damn good listens too, even if a lot of them come off as legally distinct. If you can though, you gotta play with the licensed tracks on, cause believe me, there are some moments in this game that hit so much harder with them on. There's a good variety of goons you'll face off with throughout your journey. They all got their own attack patterns and different strategies you gotta deal with. Some of them more involved, like having to disable some sort of barrier before you can start doing damage. The boss fights in this game are oops all bangers. Not every stage ends off with one, but goddamn when a boss fight happens, it fucking happens, dude. These are easily the highlights of the game for me. Absolute goddamn spectacles that are tests of all your current abilities. You start off with a pretty limited moveset, but fret not as the game frequently gives Chai some new toys to stim out on. A grappling hook for getting to those hard to hit little fuckers, special moves that can give you a nice edge in battle in a couple ways, or these tagging attacks from your buddies used for breaking those aforementioned pesky barriers. What I especially like is how multi-purpose these are. Not only for extending your combos to some serious Devil May Cry bullshit, but stuff like using Peppermint's lasers to pelt enemies from range, or Macaroon's shockwave for doing some good crowd control. A lot of this is also used in the platforming too. Neato. I especially love zipping around with the grappling hook. God damn, this is too much fun for how simple it is. Throughout the levels, you'll be picking up these gears, which are used as currency in the shop. Here you can outright buy stat upgrades, but also purchase a decent selection of new combos and moves for Chai and friends. Fairly early, you even get access to these equipable chips, which can give you some pretty decent passive effects like lowering the cooldown on your partner assist, or having enemies drop health more frequently. It's fun playing around and experimenting with these. However, I think Hi-Fi Rush truly comes into its element with the introduction of the parry in the third stage. It's not only fun as fuck and super satisfying to pull off, it transforms the combat into these hyper-aggressive dance numbers where you're constantly and seamlessly switching between offense and defense. This is also where the game starts to go a bit bonkers with the amounts of big enemies it throws at you, making for some truly hectic but exhilarating encounters. If that's not enough, the parry also unlocks these stylish as hell call and response minigames for finishing off the bigger enemies. Honestly, Hi-Fi Rush's gameplay surprised me. I was fully prepared for something that was cool looking with an interesting idea, but ultimately a shallow mash fest. Of course, this starts to make way more sense when I saw the gameplay director has a resume like this, and the executive producer has a resume like this. Further proving my belief that if like 5 Capcom workers all randomly exploded tomorrow, we would never have a fun character action game ever again. And yeah, what's here is a rock solid character action game with a unique spin. Hi-Fi Rush's combat is incredibly engaging, and I felt rewarded for wanting to get good at it. Especially if you're on higher difficulties going for those S ranks, you will need a solid grasp of the mechanics and to use every tool you have in your kit if you want to get some of these sons of bitches. I played on hard mode my first go through, and it struck a good balance and challenge that always felt fair, even when that final boss kicked my dick in more than I care to admit. How deeply they ingrained the rhythm mechanic and how consistently great the presentation is honestly makes even the most mundane shit like QTEs fun to play. A prime example being the Corsica boss fight, which is literally just the call and response parry segments. Sounds lame as shit on paper, but nuh-uh. It sets an amazing atmosphere with this music that starts all tense and subdued, while Corsica and Chai do this strafe around each other that looks all badass and shit, but then starts slowly ramping up as Corsica goes on the offense with some really well choreographed attack animations. It eventually reaches a peak where Corsica is desperately throwing out these rapid attack patterns to try and trip you up. A boss fight of nothing but fucking 2 buttons Simon fucking says, and it's this goddamn awesome. For the overall structure, I found it very solid and well-paced. Each level is thematically distinct with memorable set pieces and gimmicks, and it throws new mechanics and enemies your way at a perfect rate to keep the core gameplay fresh. It really is a game that starts off great and just gets better and better and better as it goes on. My first playthrough of the main story way back in January took me a comfortable 8 hours. I'm only half joking when I say this should be a genuine marketing point. And heck, once you beat the campaign, there is a good amount of post-game content to keep you busy, like these big doors that open up when revisiting levels to unlock some extra combat challenges, or the Rhythm Tower which has you go through 60 floors of increasingly difficult enemy encounters, basically this game's equivalent of the Bloody Palace from Devil May Cry. You even get access to a surprisingly robust amount of costumes to dress up the gang in. Bit odd it's unlocked after you beat the game, but whatever. Now more than ever is a good time to play too, cause they recently released this free update that not only gives you even more fun stuff for your folks to wear, but adds 2 new modes. BPM Rush has you going through a series of battles as the music gets faster and faster. We asked for a turbo mode and my god they gave us one. It is fun, but I swear by the end of your runs the game starts looking like the second new mode, Power Up Tower Up, is a roguelike twist on the rhythm tower. Chai starts off weaker than normal, but you'll slowly start building his stats back up as you go through enemy encounters. There's some good risk and reward to what you pick, like adding a stipulation to following battles, or trying to keep your score multiplier at a good level. I tend to wear my big roguelike hater t-shirt loud and proud most days, but I can't deny it's addictive as all hell and an amazing addition. So yeah, there's a lot to do in this game. It's more than worth the $30 price of admission, and hell, if you're an extra stingy Stacy, it's included in the Game Pass. So what else do I want to talk about? God damn, I should probably wait a year, maybe 2 years before I say this next thing for a game that only released like 7 months ago, but fuck it, I'll shamelessly jump that gun. I think right now, Hi-Fi Rush is my favorite video game, like, of all time. It's almost a non-stop, start to finish, top to bottom, good-ass time, and I cannot recommend it enough. From going nuts with the combat, to listening to the characters bicker and banter, to watching the story unfold in these flabbergastingly gorgeous cutscenes. Fuck, even just looking at this game, I had this constant ear-to-ear grin on my face. So many standout moments, like when I got to the third phase of Mimosa's boss fight, and out of nowhere they pulled out the fucking Space Channel 5 reference, I wanted to goddamn cry, dude. This game left an impact on me. Jesus Christ, it's a big reason I started trying my hand at art again. I'm constantly jumping back into it and replayed the story a dozen times since it came out, and I don't think it's ever gonna get old for me. Man, 7 months without a big video from me. I'm sorry. I'm legitimately really fucking sorry. It shouldn't have taken this long, but I just had so many, I went through so many scripts. I wanted something special because this game's special for me. And this is the only script that I didn't hate after an hour. And but who knows? I'll probably hate this video like a day after it uploads, but well, what can you do? I still hope you enjoyed the video, and if you didn't, kick my ass in the comments, let me know how. I'm hoping to have a better workflow going forward and to stop being a perfectionist, so look forward to that next month, hopefully. I'm really tired and just want to finish editing this thing, so I just want to say thank you again, and grow up.